Hey everyone, it's Josh with JE Vintage Honda Minis in Orlando, Florida. Today we'll be working on some CT70 carbs, some vintage carbs. We got two examples here. There are a couple different carb variations that were put on these bikes. This carb on my right is a 533A casting, and then this one is a HT7A casting. Very similar as far as everything goes, except the main difference on these two carbs is the neck of the slide area. This is a taller slide, and then this is a short slide. So what this affects is your cable, your throttle cable decision. If you go to a vendor such as CHP out of Texas, they sell a short cable or the longer version. So you're going to need a short cable for the long neck carb. You're going to need a longer cable for the long neck carb, and then a shorter cable for the short neck carb here. So what we'll do is we'll get this disassembled. I'm going to ultrasonic clean it, vapor hone it, and then I got packing parts. I did buy some new hardware as far as the screws go, because I'm just going to replace these for the client. And this manifold, I think this one is a Chinese manifold he sent me. The casting was real rough, but I did send it through a polish real quick with a 3M pad, so it's giving it a nice, just brush finish, kind of satin finish. But for my looking at this intake manifold versus a stock manifold, it's pretty much exactly the same. So I'm going to buy a few of them on eBay, and I'm going to compare them because I just looked the other day for a manifold. I was helping someone find one, and at least on eBay, they're going for $100 each. So, and I think that's for the original manifold, but the replica is, I don't remember if it was less than $10 or something like that. So this one's a true replica. It's actually a good casting. But anyways, we'll get at taking this apart, and we'll go through the process of cleaning it. Then we'll reassemble with the new parts and set the float height. I'll step you through that and any other little adjustments that we need to make. And then we'll do a fuel test, a leak test at the needle seat. And we'll just step you through all the process to get your carb up in working order. So for sake of simplicity, I'm gonna clean both these carbs at the same time, but we'll just focus on video on one of them. This one is the 533 casting, if it matters, 533A. First thing you're gonna do is we're gonna disassemble it. If you have the cap and you actually have a boot, let's get the boot off. You can just pull that off. Just inspect it for cracks. Buy a new one if you have cracks in there, because that can be an air leak issue for your tuning. So we're going to take this apart, get our slide out, which he doesn't have his slide in this carb, so I'll find him one. And then we'll take off you should have two screws there. Are going to get your bowl. Removed. Go ahead and take those out, and let's just get the carb body separated. Alright. And then we'll start taking it apart. We'll work on the lower part first here. So what we have is our drain screw. Just go ahead and pull that out. This has an O-ring on it that we'll end up replacing with the carb packing kit. These are little JIS screws, so we'll take this apart for the Petcock area, get that taken apart, and then we have an area here that holds a filter that we'll take out and get that cleaned out too. So let me go ahead and take those side covers off for you. So I got my two retaining screws off of this filter side cover. See if we can't pry it off. Alright, and then what you'll find inside of here is an O-ring, and then a brass filter, screen filter. So go ahead and pull that out, and then we'll take off the Petcock screws. Let me take those off, and then we'll pull that part off. Alright, so now we can take off our lever. And what you have is a lever, a top plate, and then there's a wavy spring, compression spring, and then you have your rubber packing. That should be all the parts. The note for you guys, just remembering or reassembly, are these 2 retaining screws. These are the short 2 screws, and then you had on the other side with the filter cover, those get the longer of the set of screws. Okay, so short at the petcock, longer screw at the filter side cover. Alright, so that's going to do it for the disassembly of the lower part, the bowl area. So let's work on getting the top part disassembled completely. Alright, so let's just focus on the outside of the carb. We'll get your O-ring out here off the back. These are probably pretty stiff by now and compressed, no good. Then we'll take off our idle screw and then our air screw. Let's get a flathead for that. So I'm going to go ahead and just back these out. The kit I bought, I'm going to replace these. You can clean them if you feel that they're still in good shape. Just look at the tips of them. Make sure that they're not, more so with the air screw, make sure that they're not rounded and compressed from someone over tightening them, because that is a precision part. So we'll back that out. I'll get those 2 screws out and then we'll work on the bottom part, okay? Alright, so let's get our stiff gasket out, take our float out, get our float pin pulled. We'll inspect this, make sure it floats when we do our ultrasonic cleaning. You got your needle and your seat. I'm going to get that out. We'll get the main jet, which is this larger jet, and then you have your pilot jet or slow speed is right here, the smaller one. So we'll take those out. So you can choose to reuse these if you can clean them and get them to function properly. The packing kit that or the rebuild kit that I got came with some new jets, so I'm going to go with the new jets. So this is a 2-part main, so I'm going to just use some pliers to hold the outer body, and then you need a smaller tip to fit in here to get it out, but take your time and don't strip this. .58 58 main on that one. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just get that seat out in the float. I'm going to have to go grab another tool. Alright, so I went and grabbed an 8mm socket for that seat. So my kit is going to get, I would recommend getting a new seat and needle. And then there's a little washer here that's an aluminum washer. Should come with your kit. So at that point we got everything disassembled as far as I'm going to go with taking this apart. I've also noticed if you look there at the choke flap, it's a 2-part flap, and in the middle there's a little circle, and that's like another kind of like an idle flap, I guess. It does let some air past it. I've noticed on some carbs that that's missing. I've ran them and I didn't see I didn't see any issues on some of them. But just see if yours has that still. This one does. So what you can do is at this stage is probably just use maybe a little brake cleaner. I would go around your gasket area and make sure you're pulling off all the any of that stuff that's stuck in there. See if you can scrape that out before you put it in the cleaner. You can use that gunk dipping carb cleaner from a parts store. I'm going to use an ultrasonic cleaner. So this is a HT7A carb that I'm pulling apart two at the same time. This has a 60 main in it, and the other one was a 58 main. So I got both the carbs stewing away in this solution on the ultrasonic cleaner. Again, I used a simple green. I just dump half in there and diluted it with some water, but this stuff works good. So I'll run this through a few cycles and then I'll put it in the vapor honer next. Alright, so I knew I had some leak from this morning when I got my compressor up and running. I could hear just an odd sound, but I was able to fill the tank and use the vapor honer to get that carb cleaned. I was only able to get one carb body cleaned before. This is a modified compressor. I have a oil cooler on the back of it. You can see it's hooked up behind the fan shroud where it pre-cools the air before it comes into the tank, and then it will collect the moisture. But the part that is on the oil cooler had cracked and separated, so I was able to finish the job on one of the carbs. I'm going to order the replacement oil cooler and redo it, and then I'll work on the other carb. So I was able to get one of the carbs clean. That's all we need to finish this video. So I got it ran through the vapor honer, nice and cleaned up. All my other parts, and then we'll look at the packing supplies for the rebuild kit. I'll let you see the part numbers and where I ordered them from. Okay, so the CT70 Carb Kit. Since I'm cleaning the manifold, I got some new gaskets for the base gasket for the manifold to cylinder head. Might as well get that if you're pulling it. You're definitely going to want to put a new gasket in. I got a new isolator, phenolic spacer, and then another gasket for that spacer to intake manifold. Bought some new drain hoses, and what this is called, I ordered from Dr. ATV, or also known as Beatrice Cycle. It's now even better carb kit is what he's calling it. It's $32.49 for each kit, and it's B21A is the part number if you want to go for it. Alright, so just for you guys that need a visual or like a visual, it's DrATV.com, or also known as Beatrice Cycle. Just come on over to the CT70 page, click on that, and then let me just go through this process for you guys, and then you're going to want to go to the carb section, and this is all the parts and pieces he has for the carbs. And then this kit right here is the kit I bought for $32.49. And he's got other options for you if you scroll down for some jets, but that's what you want to get. You can get the drain hose too if you want, and then I have some of the little wheel. I bought the new hardware for the fuel switches so that they're nice and zinced and not rusty. So you guys can kind of look around and see all the little parts and pieces he sells. So quick view of, this is the Honda manual for the CT70, is cross section of the carb. You know, labels all the parts and pieces if you're interested in reading that and getting terminology. But what I wanted to do is just confirm my float height. So we got our float level, and it's going to be at 20 millimeters. So that will be handy for us during the assembly.